That's a very long question. So I'm Rob Hopkins from Transition Network and the Transition Movement. My journey to be here today, I was always, when I was a teenager, I was very interested in change and in politics, and was very concerned about the world and angry about lots of things. And when I was 21, 22, I studied permaculture, which had this whole notion of earth repair that completely blew my mind, the idea that we could put earth ecosystems back together again. So for about 10 years I was a teacher of permaculture and teaching people to grow food and build buildings and so on. And then in 2005 we started this idea of something called transition, then what became the Transition Movement, and we started it in my town, and then it grew, and now it's in 50 countries around the world. It's about what communities can do to reimagine and rebuild the world around them, and so I spend most of my time in support of that movement. The reality is that we are living in the time of the climate emergency, and we have to make enormous changes very, very, very fast. So the reality is that communities cannot do that on their own, government cannot do that on their own, business cannot do that on their own, education can't do it. We need everybody to really accelerate their ambition and their imagination and their sense of what's possible. I guess my belief is that one of the things that is vital to that is that we are able to create a culture in our organizations and in our communities where people feel really imaginative and they feel like anything is possible, and they feel brave and they feel inspired to take action. And we do that, I think, by telling a story about what a low energy future would be like, so that we create a really, really deep longing in people for a different vision of what the future could be. I think sometimes people imagine that everything has to stop instantly, but for me it's why we use the word transition, because we need to get from the place we are now, which is where we are on a trajectory to 4 degrees of warming by 2070, which is basically the end of human life on this planet. So we have to change direction. And we have to change direction very, very quickly. So yes, it does mean that we will need to move away from eating meat and flying so much and having so many cars. That won't happen instantly overnight, but it does need to happen quite fast. What we need to be doing is telling the stories about what would it be like to live in Paris with no cars? What would happen with all that space in the city? What would it be like to live in a city which is completely powered with renewable energy? How would life be different? To live in a city full of birds and with clean air and streets full of children who are playing, all of these kind of things. That's the vision that we need to be, rather than talking about what people will have to do without. We need to be talking more, I think, about what an extraordinary world that would be and how much happier and more connected we would be.